Thank you for the intro, Rick. And say, Oliver is a relationship coach and many other amazing things I know through networking. And it just seemed that when I'm writing a book about love values, it seemed a perfect opportunity to ask him from a relationship coach point of view to talk to me or to do a review on the book about love values and have a chat with me tonight. Oliver, thank you ever so much for doing an early review on 30 Love Values. And I would love to hear what you think of it. Or I can read the review out if you like.
Well, whichever you decide. First, let me just say this. Congratulations, right?
Thank you.
Congratulations. It is a phenomenal accomplishment. You're already an author, but every new creation is just that, right? A new creation, right? And so I just want to just on behalf of myself and everybody who's in this grid, just congratulate you for this accomplishment. This is fantastic. Now, that being said, the book itself is great. Like, I don't know if anybody else got to read the book, but I got the privilege of getting the book early and was able to go through the book. And what I love, right? I'm gonna tell you what I love is that I I like to get information a certain way. That's just me. I'm just speaking for myself, right? So there are certain things that don't take 800 pages to express. There are certain things that you can just say what needs to be said. You can give some guidance. You can give some direction. You can put something very practical in somebody's hands that once after they read it, they could turn to their mate and actually try it. That's the kind of stuff that I love. And so, because that's the type of stuff I love, I was just drawn to what you put in the book. And so, if you want to read what I wrote, you can, and then we can kind of talk through that as well.
Oh, thank you, Oliver. That's amazing. That was the whole point, was creating this really sort of easy reference book. 30 chapters, one on each value, and 10 different points of reference in each chapter. So this is Oliver's review. As a relationship coach, I come across a ton of material on relationships, some that I can recommend to my clients and some that I cannot. I can say with confidence that Kay's 30 Love Values is one that I can highly recommend. Each value is unpacked in a way that is easily digestible for anyone wanting to strengthen how they connect with people and learn to live and love wholly. While there are clear definitions, mantras, and research, which are all awesome, the thing that stood out for me is that along with those are practical examples of how to live out the values. Because I am all about answering the question, how can I use this today? This is pure gold. And then, if that was not enough, Kay goes on to share practical ways to resolve any setbacks when challenges arise. Absolute gold. If you ever asked yourself, what does it really mean to love someone well? Or if you've struggled to understand why love sometimes fades or breaks down, this book will give you answers and, more importantly, a roadmap. 30 Love Values is not only a good read, it is a resource you can come back to again and again. Well, thank you, Oliver.
I meant every word. And I meant that. The thing that stood out for me, because here's something that you don't often see, right? We often tell people how to build, right? We're good at that. We can tell you how to build the relationship. What we don't often do is tell you what to do when parts of the relationship crash and burn. And so to have a book, you have the books that tell you, hey, if you do this, you'll fly to the moon, and then the end. But what if I don't get to the moon? What am I supposed to do? And so what I loved about what you did was you gave us the values and how we live out the values, but you also talked about the challenges with those values and what you should probably look to incorporate, what the ideology you should look to have, the thing that you should look to do if those challenges arise. And I think that that is a phenomenal component because it addresses in a very holistic way how we should be looking at these values. So good stuff.
Thank you so much, Oliver. That is amazing. And I also say Rory is also going to share any links that we need tonight for us. Bless him, he's been DJ, poet, and admin in the background tonight, and hosting the Zoom so that I can focus on the lineup. So it's incredible. Thank you, Rory. So Rory's going to hopefully share with us the link to, and I've just noticed all the comments as well. So that's fine if you need to leave. Catherine, hi everyone. Thank you, Vanessa, Mary. It's a fantastic book launch. Oh, bless you. And that's fine. Thank you so much for the comments. And what would also be nice is, because this is a global event tonight, just let us know in the chat what country you're zooming in from tonight as well. I think we were potentially having people as far as Australia, but I don't know if she's in the room yet. Let me just have a quick glance down the list. But we've got people from America, Canada, all the way down to South Africa, and in everywhere in between. And there was potentially somebody coming from Australia as well. So this is pretty much a global event tonight. So I think what I'm going to briefly do, I'm going to keep you on here because we can continue talking in a minute, and we've got a little bit longer for the book launch, is I'm going to read a little bit out about the value of playfulness, because I want tonight to be fun. I really want everyone to enjoy the evening and the lineup and not make it too serious, because yes, relationships are serious, things that can go wrong. All relationships can be stressful, even good ones, but I want the evening to be fun and to realize that there are some amazing ways to work on relationships through self-love and compassion as well. So the love value of playfulness is to keep the spark alive with the power of playful love. I can write. Why can I write, not read? Losing the art of playfulness is seen as becoming mature. However, it also loses the art of living with joy. Every relationship deserves joy, fun, and laughter to exist within it. Playfulness used in the right context can help increase bonding, support intimacy, reduce stress, improve trust, and show that there is more to life than working and paying the bills. Playfulness can exist in many forms, from verbal to physical, and from quiet moments of secret jokes that embrace your attentiveness to full-on fun at the fair and letting your hair down, so to speak. Sorry, Oliver. Right. So we want to have lots of fun tonight. And just to help people understand what is in the book, I've tagged this up because I've got a few bits of reference tonight, I'll get the right place in the camera in a minute. So we have the intro, and then we're going to have a definition. So every value has a definition. And then we go on to a part where we have the importance of the value. We have a mantra, a research fact, and then we have 20 expanded examples on how to use that specific value. So I'll read a couple of these out. You let me know if you use these in or if you do, or if you need to, Oliver. Let's have a quick chat about a couple of these.
Okay.
So one is play games together, like card games, video games, board games, or even made-up games. Mm-hmm. Do you teach that in your relationship coaching or use it in your relationship?
We do. Matter of fact, you probably can't see it because it's blurred out behind me, but behind me over here on the shelf is a card game that we recommend to couples. I have another one back here off camera. Matter of fact, my wife just bought a game a couple of days ago that we haven't tried out yet, and so I am a proponent of that, because what that does is it removes the apprehension, right? So if I sit a couple down and I say, hey, I want you to have, and I wouldn't say this, but let's just say I said this, I want you to have a serious talk about XYZ, and I want you to talk about your feelings and your thoughts and they'd be like, I don't want to do that, right? But if I say, hey, I want you to play this game and I want you to pull these two cards and let's see what happens. And they pull a card and they ask a question, what's the best thing that's ever happened in your life, right? You start to now get a chance to hear their thoughts. You get a chance to learn something about them. And I always talk to couples about leveraging learning, right? As it relates to building in a relationship. And doing that in a fun way is often a great way to establish something between them and solidify some things that maybe would have felt very mechanical or very mundane or very like crack the whippish type of things. Now it removes all of that to play games. So yeah, we're a proponent of that. We do that with our couples, and we do that just the two of us, so we're big
Well,
on
that's
that.
amazing. Thank you. And thanks for sharing that. And I think this is a good point to point out, a good time to point out that when we're talking about love values, for me, I've noticed that what we use as values in our life, we each have our top values. So it'd be nice as well. And thank you for all the wonderful places people are zooming in from. This is tremendous. Is to type your top values in as well, or even your top value that you go to when someone says, what's your value? But I've noticed over the years that a value to me, my top ones are integrity, honesty, and trust. But I noticed that I also have to uphold my own integrity, not just rely on other people nurturing my value. I have to nurture it myself. So there's that self-care element. And again, when it comes to playfulness, being playful with myself, not being too serious on myself, which I know I've been through times where I've had low self-esteem, I've had depression, I've had burnout, I've had some difficult traumatic times over the years for different reasons. And we can get to a point where we start to beat ourselves up and be really serious with ourselves. And it's learning to bring that playfulness back in our own being as well.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about playing games, being single, I've learned to do that on my own, and that not as dirty as it sounds. But I've learned to play solitaire games, whether it is the traditional board with solitaire marbles or playing cards, or even sometimes doing like colouring and things. That's also where some people might get creative. So rather than board and card games, various different arts and crafts and gardening or whatever it is we do. But that sense of playfulness is important, even for self-care and self-love, because every single one of these, if we can't uphold these values in ourselves, how can we uphold them in a relationship?
Yeah.
And then also recognizing where our boundaries and barriers are as well. Because if we don't uphold our own boundaries, how can we expect somebody else to respect them as well? And that's the thing I've noticed, is where we don't know our boundaries and our values, we end up being vulnerable or allowing other people to walk over us. So to me, all of these values were not ones I went off to research. Now, I know we've had conversation already about this earlier, Oliver, about how we come up with content. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, this comes back to a conversation I had with Rory earlier this year, early summer. And we were talking about values and neurodiversity. And we were talking about my first book, Brain Unchained, which is this one. Mm-hmm. And as we were talking about this and the emotional awareness, and I thought, well, there are so many people. I developed that to help parents talk to teenagers and young adults. And over the years of developing that, I've realized how many adults are missing foundational information about emotional awareness. And they can be highly emotionally intelligent, have really high IQ, but still be missing emotional awareness information. Mm-hmm. So how can they uphold boundaries and barriers and nurture values in a relationship? And I guess that's why your business is really busy, Oliver, with relationship coaching, because people are finding it difficult to maintain those relationships. Yeah. And when we're talking about people with neurodiversity, and then there's all the gender differences and preferences as well, it really throws some extra complications in the mix, and so many other topics that add extra complications to relationships. I was like, wow, no wonder there are so many broken relationships and single parents and children growing up with more trauma, so much abuse going on in the world. And I had this idea in that moment, was talking about this book about love values. And so I didn't go and research them. They literally was me spent 2 days walking around going, oh, there's another one, just filtering back through my own experience and knowing what I'd brought to relationships, whether that was my marriage at the time, whether it was parenting my children. And my daughter is on the call, by the way, if anybody spotted her yet. Because we're spotlighted, I can't see her, but I know she's here. So thank you. Nice to see you tonight, Heidi. And so I spent these 2 days just going, right, these are all the values that have been really important to work relationships as well. And sometimes even having a conversation with a stranger in the street.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about boundaries and barriers, those are, we don't necessarily want to go and be overly open with somebody straight off. We can almost smother them if we're overly loving with somebody too much. We all know who the stalkers can be online, but the fact that they give too much love in the first comment, you're like, yes, delete that one, overly filled with values too soon. So there is those signs there at the other side that there are some issues with their relationships. So for me, this is where it literally, I had this idea, came up with a list, and then I spent 3 days just trying to work out how I was going to get the structure in place. So it took me a long time just to go, right, here's the foundation of what the book is going to be before I even started putting all the content in it. But then saying that, compared to doing Brain Unchained, which took 5 years to formulate, but that was a very different framework. Taking a few months to do this has actually been quite a quick process for me. But I've loved doing it, and it's taught me so much, pulling out all of that knowledge and experience that I have been fortunate enough to experience from the good side as well as the not so pleasant side at times, and to bring forward the bits of the values that I have seen success in. And like you said, the ways that I've used those values to help when things haven't always been so successful.
Yeah.
And, yes.
I want to say this. I appreciate, right, that the process for you did not take that long. Because sometimes, and let's, for those who don't know me, I'm a very lovable, honest, open guy, right? So I'm just going to be honest. There are some people who, if you're not taking 5 years and 6 years and 18 months just to research one value, they won't give credence to it. But I think the fact that you didn't do research on what the values were, you just walking around like, oh yeah, that's a value. That speaks to a simplicity that we often ignore when it comes to building and maintaining relationships. Often we overcomplicate it. Many of us are guilty of that in the industry that I'm in, because there's so much information. They're the John Gottmans of the world. They're the psychologists of the world and the psychiatrists of the world. There's a million books and studies and medical journals and all of this stuff around relationships. And I'm not saying any of that stuff is bad. That stuff is helpful. But sometimes we overcomplicate it so much. And sometimes it's just, hey, how would I like to be treated? What are the things that are important? Is gratitude, like somebody put that in the comments, is gratitude important to me? Is integrity important to me? Is compassion important to me? Is empathy important to me? Okay, I should probably give that to somebody else. Sometimes it just comes down to that. Like, what if I look at myself and my wife, right? How do I want to be treated? Do I want to be treated with respect? Yes. Do I want to be listened to? Yes. Do I want her to have compassion on me? Yes. So I should probably give that. And sometimes, and I hate to use the word simple because I don't want to make anybody feel like simple is not a bad word, but sometimes it is that simple. Like, what are the things that are important to you? They are probably important to your mate.
Mm. Do you know,
So I love that you came up with it like that.
Oh, thank you. And yes, so give what you want to receive. But there's also the point, Oliver, and I love this, but there's also a point where sometimes in a relationship, people's values will misalign, or two partners could have different values. So for me, it's also how can you nurture each other's values while getting what you need without giving away something in yourself? And that's where, to me, a lot of this is really important to understand, because when people have different sets of values, it doesn't mean they don't make a great couple. It just means they have to work a little bit harder to find mutual ground on all of those values. Yeah. Because very often in a lot of relationships that I've experienced is when somebody has a very strong value, the other one has to give way. and they're strongly opinionated and they want this and they don't want that. Like you'll get a couple where one's very much about physical hugging and another one might be about gifting or monetary values. And it's very hard sometimes to find that middle ground on how to please each other, like on birthdays or celebrations and things. So it is about having those conversations over those games and so on. But I honestly really want to thank you. And this conversation has gone way quicker than I thought it would. I had about 4 things lined up to read, and I've read one of them.
No worries.
But I really want to thank you, Oliver, for joining me tonight for this, and say to everybody, if you are interested, the Kindle is now out. It's 99p for the next week. And the other thing I would really, really value if anybody is kind enough to go and share the link on your social media and share that the Kindle is 99p and that there is some value in testing it out at that price. But also, if anybody does want the paperback, from now up to the end of Sunday, any paperback, whether it is 30 Love Values, whether it is Brain Unchained or one of the other 17 book designs that I've got, because I got various books on Amazon when you follow my profile link. To be honest, any of the paperbacks, I will donate 50% of the profits from now to the end of Sunday towards Davy and Cares Foundation as well. So thank you so much, Oliver, for joining me and having a talk tonight. That was
My
absolute
pleasure.
gold in itself.
My pleasure. I was excited to be a part of this. I've already shared with a former client that I would be sending them a link to this book, and I will also be emailing my email list right after this.